Hey, so my name is Victor. I'm doing my report on Kurt Vonnegut. The name of the book is Slaughterhouse 5. Um, I would rate this book a 4 out of 5 solely because of how it's not super linear. It's hard to follow along in some parts of the book. Kurt does a good job explaining all of his life, but he doesn't do a good job in organizing it really. His thoughts are all over the place and he kind of jumps from place to place. And I found myself kind of lost sometimes of like where is he at in his stage of life, or in Billy's stage of life. So the book is about a character named Billy. He's the protagonist of the book. He is a veteran of World War II. During the war, he was captured as a prisoner of war and was sent to Dresden, Germany. While he was in Germany, they got attacked by the Allies and they dropped bombs on the city, basically destroying the whole city. And him and most of the prisoners were survivors. So after the war, they were forced to do a salvage and overhaul of the city, and basically find bodies. While they were doing that, he had a friend named Edgar that he was very, very close with, that he made friends with while they were prisoners. After the bombing, they were forced to do all that. And while they were searching, Edgar found a teapot that he really liked. And he was trying to keep it, and the Germans saw that he was trying to keep it, and they did not like that, so they executed him in front of everyone. And so Billy saw that, and Billy talks about the execution a lot, and his friend Edgar quite a bit in the book. But throughout the book, he's also talking about his life currently, he's trying to write a book within the book. So in the book, he's talking about writing the book and all this other stuff at the same time. He's also interviewing people to help him write the book. So he talks about a plane crash that he suffered as well. They're currently in Massachusetts. A lot of the book takes place in Massachusetts, or his post life was in Massachusetts, or in the Cape Cod specifically. And they were in a plane crash in New Hampshire, I believe, or maybe Vermont. So he talks about that, but he also talks about his life and his family a little bit, and he also talks about his life after the war, directly after the war, like him getting married and having the kids. He also talks about this book. There's this planet, that he gets abducted to. That he thinks he gets abducted to, called Transfloridorian, and the aliens there are called the Transfloridorians. And these aliens are trying to explain to him that basically life is all at once. And he is trying to understand the concept that his present is also his future and his past. So everything is all at once, and everyone lives different parts of their life, but all at one time. So right now right now I am living my life in the present and in the future. So he wants everyone to understand. They want everyone to understand that you can see everything all at once. And my theory on that is, I think it has to do, he uses the aliens to try to make people understand how he is currently living as a veteran who, it doesn't really say he has PTSD, but you can tell he has PTSD because he just jumps all over the place. But he's also talking about his past a lot, and how it doesn't explain that he's possibly hallucinating, but my theory is that he's hallucinating a lot of this stuff. And he talks about that. But go on. He talks about his death at the end as well, but it doesn't really go into examples of how he dies. But he knows that he's going to die. On the island, on the planet, he's forced to have sex with a porn star that he talks about in the book. So the book is all over the place, but it's a good book. You definitely should give it a read. And so I'll go back to answering the questions. Who do you think should read this book? I think I said in my essay I didn't really talk about what grade should read this book, but I think seniors should read this book. Definitely anyone in high school. I think it's a good example. It's a good way to start conversation in class. I think there's a lot of conversation starters that classes can have, or people can have discussions for it in class. But also, it's a good training to make sure that you're following along. So if you really, it's a good way for teachers to prepare kids for college for reading textbooks or reading super long passages, because this book jumps around a lot. So it really makes sure that you understand what you're reading. So the reason why this book is banned, or it gets banned a lot, is there, like I said, there are some talks of sexual things. It doesn't really explain the sex into any extreme detail, but it does talk about sex a little bit. There's also some swearing, which is, in my opinion, not bad. I don't think that high schoolers are in a situation where they don't hear swearing or they don't swear themselves, so I don't think it's inappropriate for a high school age student to read these words. Also, there are some violence in the book. Obviously, he talks about his friend getting executed, but also it is a war book, so there is some violence in it. And then the last reason why people think that this book should be banned is because it came out during the time of the Vietnam War. So I think that also helped a little bit of this. It's an anti-war it kind of has an anti-war message. Even Billy himself, in the beginning, he talks about how he is not anti-war, and this book is not an anti-war book, but it does have some anti-war things in there. He talks about how children, the reason why he doesn't like wars is because he thinks the Americans are sending children out to die, and so does one of his friend's wives. So that's why so Kurt, let me go back. Kurt made the book out to Mary, which is Mary O'Hare, which is one of the wives of his friend that helped him write the book. Not helped him write the book, but that he interviewed. So Mary kind of hated Kurt for asking him about the book, and after he mentioned that he doesn't like how children are going to the war, Mary actually helped him interview, and was better or happier that he interviewed him and talked to him about the war. So if you ever do research on the book, you actually find out that a lot of the stuff in the book that quote unquote Billy did is actually the life story of Kurt. So Kurt did go to World War II. He did suffer the bombing in Dresden, and he was a prisoner of war. And then he didn't live in a plane crash, but he also, he also saw his friend get executed. So there is a larger picture of like him, basically. And I think I answered all the questions. Besides, I think I rated a 4 out of 5. It says here that it should be 0 to 10. So if I had to do it 0 to 10, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. That's basically everything that you should know about Slaughterhouse 5. If you haven't read it, I do recommend you read it. And it's a good book. And that'll be it. Have a good one.